Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Brandis. I'm with the Colorado Small Business Development Center Network's SBDC TechSource Commercialization Program. I'd like to welcome you all today to the U.S. Department of Energy's SBIR and our programs webinar. We're happy to be hosting this session in collaboration with the Wyoming SBDC Network. To start, I'd like to introduce you to our state's technology commercialization program, which is designed to support science and technology ventures throughout Colorado. Businesses are pre-startup through advanced second stage, so if you have an innovative technology, you're likely a fit for the program regardless of your stage of business. Different from many accelerators and incubators that lead to equity funding, where you give away an ownership piece of your company, SBDC TechSource focuses especially on non-dilutive capital, where there is no equity given, and on technology commercialization and SBIR, STTR grants. TechSource is a specially designed program that taps subject matter experts to provide you, which are typically the science and technology entrepreneurs and companies, from pre-startup to second stage with direct assistance. This comes in the form of customized expert consulting, which is at cost to you, as well as through relevant workshops, events, and accelerator programs, which are in person whenever possible, but otherwise online throughout the year. Some of the topics that we cover include SBIR and STTR, as well as advanced industries grant proposals, R&D tax credits, technology commercialization, government accounting, IP, market research, market sizing, strategic and tactical planning, access to capital, and much more. All of these resources are available thanks to support from SBA's FAST program, VISA, the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade, the Minority Business Office, Zero, and the City of Boulder. If you're a business located in a rural part of Colorado or are minority or women-owned, we may have additional resources to help you, so please reach out. I would like to thank our collaborating partner on this webinar, the Wyoming SBDC Network. If you are a Wyoming-based business, please reach out and we will get you connected to resources offered through their programs. A few quick things about this webinar. If you are interested in meeting one-on-one with one of our specialists or attending workshops, events, or other webinars, please visit our website. It is sbdc-techsource.org. We're happy to get you started there. Today's webinar is being recorded. You will receive an email following with a link to the recording, as well as the slides that you will see today. And just a few housekeeping things. Everyone is currently on mute. If you do have questions, please put them into the chat bar and we will get to them at the end. We will leave a significant amount of time for questions. Please do be entering those into the chat. Today's webinar presenter is Eileen Chant. I do want to give a little brief bio on her. So Eileen joined the DOE as Outreach Program Manager at the Office of SBIR and STTR programs in 2020. She has more than 25 years working as a mechanical engineer in diverse energy technology areas, encompassing startup assistance, commercial and industrial equipment consulting, and nonprofit industry associations. She received her PhD in mechanical engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Eileen, and we'll get started.
Thank you, Jamie. I'll wait for the...
Here we go.
There we go. So can everybody see my slides and hear me as well, Jamie?
Yep, you're looking good.
We're good. Okay, thank you again, Jamie, for the introduction, and thank you very much for the invitation to come speak to Colorado's energy innovators. So welcome, everyone. I'm here to talk about the Department of Energy's SBIR and STTR programs and provide you with information about whether or not you are a good fit with the organization and how you go about applying for funding. Whoops, I gotta go back to my slides. Somehow I ended up with the full screen here. Okay, here we go. Okay, the federal SBIR STTR program, you should be familiar with the fact that there are 11 agencies that offer SBIR STTR grants and contracts. What is this program? It is a program that is over $3.5 billion in early stage non-dilutive R&D fund for small businesses. The federal government spends certain amount of money on extramural R&D, meaning R&D going outside of the federal government labs, and 3.2% of it is mandated to go to the SBIR fund, and 0.45% is mandated to go to the STTR program. This program is a mechanism to fund early stage, high risk innovation ideas that are incubated by small businesses. This is a space that is where the ideas are too early stage for conventional investment by the private sector. The idea is to stimulate technological innovation and to seed R&D and commercialization amongst the small business community. As I said before, there's 11 agencies that have SBIR as well as STTR programs. Only the 5 largest agencies, which is the DoD, HHS, DOE, NSF, and NASA, have STTR programs. The remainder have only SBIR programs. So here's the different agencies. You can see they vary in the amount of funds that they have to provide the grants and the contracts. But there are a number of agencies out there. If you find that DOE is not a good fit for you, look at some of the other agencies. There's Department of Commerce, there's National Science Foundation, and every agency works a little bit differently. As I will show you later, the DOE topics are very narrow. The topics that we fund are narrow. But for example, National Science Foundation will fund anything that they think is a good idea and is a good early stage idea. So don't give up at decide the DOE is not for you. Look around at the other agencies as well to see if there's a fit there. When you're thinking about applying for a grant, you want to consider whether you're going to apply for the SBIR grant or an STTR grant. What are the differences between the two? The SBIR program allows you to partner with a research institution, and while the STTR program requires that you partner with a nonprofit research institution. The PI of the project must be the employee of the small businesses in the case of SBIR, while for STTR, the PI can be either an employee of the small business or the research institution. There's a few other requirements as far as the research and development budget are concerned, but it turns out that if you fulfill requirements of both SBIR and STTR, you can submit the same application to both programs. They're separate pots of money, so it's important for you to know that if you do happen to fulfill both requirements, you should check both those boxes. And you also need to pay attention to the fact of whether the topic that you're applying to is participating in STTR. Not all topics participate in STTR. I did mention the R&D expenditure requirements, and just sort of quickly for phase 1, the small business must do at least 2/3 of the budgeted research and development for the SBIR program. For the STTR program, the small business must do at least 40% of the research and development, and the research institution must do at least 30% of the R&D. So if you are between 40% and 67%, and you have a research institution that's doing at least between 30 and 33% of the R&D expenditures, you should be able to apply to both programs. Phase 2 also has specifics about the differences in the expenditures between the two programs. So be aware of those differences and give it some consideration when deciding which program you're going to apply to. So the DOE has 2 funding opportunities per year. We have Release 1, the topics open in July, and the applications are due 3 months later in October. So right now we have Release 1 open. There are 4 offices which participate in Release 1, and those are listed here. These offices are a little bit more fundamental, basic energy science, bioenergy, environmental and atmospheric monitoring, etc. Nuclear physics is there, and advanced computing. So you might think of those as a little bit more a basic energy or basic R&D kind of oriented. Not completely. However, in Release 2 is in November, and these topics, I'm missing one of the offices here, my apologies. There's an Office of Environmental Management as well too. These topics tend to be more applied, the things that you think of like grid modernization, solar, wind, carbon capture, but there are some other topics here that are maybe a little bit more basic in the fusion energy sciences and high energy physics area. The idea here is when the topics documents go out, go to this link, this funding opportunities page, read the topics document and find out if your technology is a good fit with any of those topics, i.e. if your research and development can be applied in some way to solve the problem that's being requested in the topic. You must be a good fit with the program, with the topics that are released and the topic and the subtopic that you're applying to in order to be able to, for it to be worth your while to put in an application. So many people don't know all of the really wide range of topics that we release. Now, again, as I mentioned before, our topics are very specific, and I'll show you an example going forward. But at the same time, we really release a lot of topics and areas that you might not associate with the Department of Energy. Everybody knows that the Department of Energy's mission, is to provide leadership in clean energy technologies. So here's a sampling of the types of technologies that we issue topics around. But did you also know, as I sort of have already discussed in prior slides, that we do provide leadership in basic energy and engineering sciences. So we have topics around advanced detectors, advanced instrumentation, readout devices, accelerator technology, kind of components that accelerators might need to help them do their R&D going forward, and lots more. Thirdly, the Department of Energy's mission includes enhancement of nuclear security. So we do also issue topics around nuclear non-proliferation and cleanup of the nuclear weapons waste sites around the country. So a variety of topics are issued. The entry point to our program is the Phase 1 grant. I sort of, when I make these outreach presentations, I sort of assume that most people are interested in hearing about Phase 1 and how to apply for a Phase 1 grant, but feel free to ask questions about Phase 2. Phase 1 is the entry point into our program. There are 2 application deadlines per year. One of them is in October and one of them is in February. Our topics are very focused. You must be a good fit with our topic in order to have a shot at receiving an award. But luckily, one of the things that we've implemented over the last few years is what's called a letter of intent. So the letters of intent for the current application cycle are due August 30th. And it's a 500-word write-up. You have to say who you are, your company name, which topic and subtopic you're going to apply to, and then what it is that you're going to propose. So it's short, it's 500 words. If your topic is considered non-responsive, then you will receive an email with feedback saying that this was your proposed R&D is non-responsive and this is why. So in this case, no news is good news. If you don't hear from the DOE 3 weeks after the deadline for the LOI, it means that your topic is considered either responsive or maybe not necessarily not non-responsive. I hate to say it that way, but it just really means that you're not non-responsive. So if you do get that LOI feedback, that non-responsive feedback, you really need to sit down with your team and say, do we want to submit this application or not? You still can submit an application, but do you really want to? What should you change about your approach? Or maybe you weren't clear enough in your letter of intent, but you do really want to do some hard thinking about whether you want to submit an application. The phase 1 grant is between 200 and 250,000 as a maximum. You can ask for less money. You should ask for what you need to conduct your R&D. Phase 1 is a feasibility evaluation. It's not for basic R&D, and it's not for demonstration of your prototype. It's for taking an idea you have, an early stage idea that you have, applying it in a way to the subtopic, but also the technology. You should be thinking about how you will be able to commercialize this technology at the same time. The phase 1 award duration is 6 to 12 months. That's your call. If you think you can do your feasibility evaluation in 6 months, that's fine, but you need to propose from 6 to 12 months of study. And we issue 300 to 400 awards per year. Our award success rate is about 25%. So it is a competitive process for early stage R&D, and you should be an expert in the field that you are working in. You don't have to have a PhD. That's a question that often gets asked, but you should have experience and expertise in the area, and your team should be rounded out so that you will be able to conduct your study. 40 to 50% of awardees go on to phase 2. There are follow-on phase 2 awards that are shown here, 2A, 2B, 2C. So if you are sort of moving through your process, your phase 1 is successful in proving feasibility, your phase 2, you're implementing your commercialization plan, developing your prototype, you can receive follow-on awards if you can demonstrate you need more time and money to further your path towards commercialization, and you can receive up to 7 or 8 years of award to working on your product. And it can be, almost up to, I guess it's $3, $4, or $5 million during that time. Again, fiscal year 22, phase 1, release 1 has hit the streets at this point. You should go to this page. You can look, if you haven't already, you should click on this topics document and look through it and see if there's something for you in here. There were some webinars, those have passed, but if you go to these links, you'll be able to listen to the webinars, and the technical topic managers are speaking on these webinars. So you can fast forward to your topic and listen to the technical topic manager speak on the area of your topic and subtopic. And so you could get a little bit more information about what they're looking for. Our FOA is coming out, will be released on on Monday, is coming Monday, and then the document will appear here. The link to the FOA document will appear here. And there is a webinar on Friday, August 13th that you should attend as well. Letters of intent are due at the end of this month, August 30th. And so all the timeline of the application cycle is shown here. On November 8th, release 2 topics will come out. Go to this page on November 8th, pull up the topics document, which will be populated here in this blank cell, and see if there's something for you. Here's a sample of whenever I try to hide my control panel, I change screens, but okay. Here's an example of a topic. Please pay attention to this maximum award amount. Some of these are 200, some are 250. Do not ask for more money than the maximum phase 1 award amount. Unfortunately, your application will be declined. You won't get the opportunity to redo your budget request. If you're thinking about STTR, please pay attention to this as well, whether or not they're accepting STTR applications. Read the topic and the subtopic very carefully. There's always a list of references as well in the topics document. Read all the references very carefully. You need to be an expert in the technology that you're developing, and you need to be familiar with the state of the art of the technology. You can reach out to the technical topic manager. Their name and email is listed at the bottom of every subtopic, and you can reach out to them now, and you can reach out to them from the time the topics are released, which was July 12th for the current cycle, until the time that you submit your application, which those are due October 12th. So you can reach out to the technical topic manager. The recommendation is to really specifically ask some questions about what they're looking for with this topic. You don't want to send them your proposal narrative or try to sell them on your technology at this point in time. That's what the proposal review is for. But really try to understand, reach out to them to try to understand what they're looking for with the framework of what it is that you're trying to propose. So those are the recommendations. Pay a lot of attention to the topics and the subtopic information. So what does the review process look like? For the phase 1 application, there are 3 technical reviewers that will review your application. There is a small commercialization write-up. I think it's 4 pages for the phase 1 application, but we don't have a separate reviewer for the phase 1 commercialization plan. There is a separate commercialization reviewer for the phase 2 proposal. The 3 main criteria of the technical review is the strength of the scientific and technical approach, what it is that you're proposing to do. The ability to execute the proposed work is also a criteria. And what does that mean? You should have a very solid work plan. You're proposing to evaluate the feasibility of your idea. Make sure that your work plan is in line with your goals for the project, and also make sure that you have a good team. All the aspects of the work plan can be addressed by the team that you put together, and you should know that you can include subcontractors. If you're missing a certain element of expertise, you can go out and find subcontractors to round out your team, or research institutions who are also subcontractors to round out your team. And then what is the potential impact of the technology that you're proposing? So those are the 3 technical review criteria. Now at that point in time, their proposals receive scores, and then they're ranked by the program offices themselves. And then the most highly ranked applications are awarded based on available funding. So sometimes the well-ranked applications that are recommended for funding do not get an award. And it's not because it wasn't a good application, it's just that it wasn't the most highly ranked application. So we have a certain amount of funding with each cycle, and we award based on that limitation. I showed this in in that table. This is how the timeline works for phase 1 and phase 2. You have basically 3 months from the time the topic goes out until the time the applications are due. We provide award notifications within 90 days of the time that the applications are due. And then there's a negotiation period as well too, in which the contract details are determined. And then you would be starting your award at a little bit more than 4 months after you submit your application. And then here is a timeline for phase 2. Your phase 2 application is due 9.5 months after you start your phase 1 award period. So you might be submitting your application before you finish your phase 2 application, before you finish your phase 1 research and development, which is fine. That's normal. But if you propose a 6-month or a 9-month budget period, then you would have finished your research in that case. We do offer assistance, application assistance. We're not just a grantee organization. We do provide application as well as awardee assistance because we want you all to be successful as possible. We have recorded webinars. I talked about the topic in the FOA webinars. If you attend our FOA webinar or our topic webinar, you will be invited to these Q&A webinars, which is you can just jump on the call. There's 7 of them, and ask us questions about the application process. So if you are applying, you should start digging into the details of the application process so you can jump on our webinar call and ask us questions. If you are a first-time DOE SBIR STTR application, I highly recommend that you visit this webpage and look at our application assistance program, which is called Phase 0. It is free to you, and our contractor is Dawnbreaker, and you will receive a one-on-one coach to help you with really many of the most critical aspects of the application process. I'll talk a little bit more about Phase 0 in the next couple of slides. Do you think it would be helpful for your R&D to collaborate with a DOE National Lab? We do have this resource page. It talks about the different areas of R&D and focus of our national labs, and also it provides contact information. You can reach out to the contacts and explore whether there's the potential to collaborate with the labs. We have this online learning center. If you don't join the Phase 0 program, there's videos and as well as slideshows that help you with different aspects of the application process, how to get your system registrations, how to do your budget, what should be in your letter of intent, etc. And then finally, join our mailing list. You'll receive announcements if you're on our mailing list about all our programs. And so you should be on our mailing list, and you should follow us on Twitter as well. Okay, a little bit more about Phase 0. Do you need help preparing your first-time application? The application process is complex. Be aware of that. You're going to have to spend a significant amount of time developing it, and you really need to read all the documentation. You need to read the FOA very carefully, and check out our website, our Applicant Resources page as well, too. We have an application instruction guide. You should download that as well. But for this program, all first-timers are eligible until the program fills up. And if you go to the site and apply, someone from Dawnbreaker will reach out to you. It's not a big application. It's just a couple of web screens where you enter your information. Someone from Dawnbreaker will reach out to you and talk to you and call you, and you do have to know what topic and subtopic you're applying to, and exactly you need to be able to talk about what it is you're going to do and why is it that you're a good fit. We welcome underrepresented groups to apply to this program. We're always welcoming applications from women-owned small businesses, socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, as well as businesses from underrepresented states. Now, Colorado is not an underrepresented state. I think there are people from Wyoming here. Wyoming is an underrepresented state. So we do welcome applications from those small businesses, hub zones as well too. There's a webinar on Phase 0 which you can view on this registration page. It already occurred, but you can view the webinar. But all first-time attendees are invited to apply for the Phase 0 program. These are the areas in which you receive assistance. They will help you prepare your letter of intent. They will help you with the, unfortunately, 5 system registrations that you must be on and approved for 5 system websites. Not fun, but most of them are pretty easy. Some of them do take a long time, so you need to start those very soon. They help you with Phase 1 proposal prep. They help you do some market research to understand the marketing landscape and the commercial potential of your technology. Please note that that's the end game. That is the goal of the SBIR program, is for small businesses to commercialize their technology. So even though there's not a big emphasis on commercialization in phase one, you really do need to be thinking about that part of your business. And then you get these optional services, which you can pick one or two of them, depending on how much other support that you've gotten from the core services. Travel assistance will, during your preparation of your proposal, I should just mention specifically, this gives you money to go travel to like the national labs or other research institutions to talk to them about teaming on your proposal. Now, during the pandemic, it may revolve more around WebEx meetings and that kind of thing at this point. But just to know that that's part of the program. Just to let you know, we offer a number of awardee programs as well too. So we don't just give you the grant and say, okay, go. We try to provide assistance so you can start, once you're doing your feasibility R&D, so you can start gearing up your commercialization plan. So for phase one and phase two, you can receive up to $6,500 for phase one and $50,000 for phase two to develop your commercialization plan. Now you can select your own vendor if you have a vendor who you want to use, or you can use our vendor. If you're going to use your own vendor, you have to put the $6,500 of additional funding over that $200,000 or that $250,000 for conducting your research. You have to ask for that money specifically in your proposal. If you go with our vendor, you do not have to put it in your proposal, and you will automatically be eligible for the LARDA CAP assistance. So they help you with developing a compelling market-relevant commercialization plan. In phase two, they go into a deeper dive, obviously with $50,000 market research under the different segments of the market. What is the regulatory landscape? What is the intellectual property landscape? They'll help you develop a pitch deck so you can go to your customers and with that to sell your technology. Energy I-Core is a new program. We're offering it for the second time in the current funding cycle for phase one awardees. Awardees apply and are selected. There's a limit on the number, just like the phase zero program, there's a limit on the number of companies that we will accept into the program. In the past, it's been 2 site visits, 2 meetings, traveling to 2 meetings. One you travel to and you're trained on entrepreneurial concepts based on the lean launch approach. You go away after that training and you do you're required to do 30 customer interviews. And then you come back 2 months later after you've completed your customer discovery process. You come back 2 months later to talk about your customer discovery process, present it, get feedback and that type of thing on what you've done. So very valuable programs, received a lot of favorable reviews from attendees. Okay, so just to let you know, here are all of the, in blue, here are all of the applicant assistance programs that we offer. Take advantage of them as needed during your application process. And then in the light orange are all of our awardee resources. We have the CAP program. We have Energy I-Core. We have a PI meeting. If you are a phase one awardee, you will be invited to a PI meeting. You will see presentations and get to meet with angel investors, venture capitalists. You will see innovators who have been successful. There will be meetings on patent and intellectual property advice and that type of thing. And then we have a program coming up that's only for phase two awardees called our diversity supplement. Okay, just a few quick success stories before we go into the Q&A. Here is one company, Opus 12, started 5 years ago by 3 Stanford graduate students. They have a technology in which they use renewable electricity and water, and it takes a carbon dioxide waste stream from some kind of industry stream, and they turn it into hydrocarbon-based valuable chemicals, which we're all familiar with, all those chemicals which are right now based on petroleum products, but this is taking a waste stream of CO2 and turning them into petrochemicals. So again, they have they started with DOE SBIR awards, and since then they've had $19 million in venture capitalists and private sector investment, and they now have 40 employees. Here's another one, Power Market. This is community solar. I should mention this is more of a release 2 success story. And this is a software product that allows community solar to thrive and makes it easy for utilities, clean energy, and solar developers to work together to offer sort of a seamless community solar program. All right, well, thank you for listening to my presentation. Here's a few final reminders. I should mention you can email us at any time and ask us questions. We pride ourselves, we answer all emails and we try to answer them all within 24 hours. If the question's a little more complicated, it might take a little bit longer, but we will reply to email questions. I will also put my email address in the chat so that you can email me if you have any questions. Please get on our mailing list as well too, so that you'll be alerted to all the going-ons in our department. Thank you very much.
Awesome. There's so many great resources through your program, so it's really great to hear.
Yeah, I was trying to emphasize that it's not just following the application process on your own. We try to offer assistance as much as possible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So thank you for sharing all of that. So if you have questions, please do put those in the chat and we will get to as many as we can. I know we had one towards the beginning that was about, can you submit to multiple different solicitations if you do have different types of technology that you're doing? Can you propose to different solicitations for each cycle?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you can. So one thing is you can propose the same research and development to different agencies. You have to disclose that you're doing the same thing. You're proposing the same thing to 2 different agencies. And if you were to receive both awards, you could only accept one because you can't get paid twice for doing the same work. But within the DOE, you cannot submit the same application to different subtopics. But you can submit multiple applications. If you can apply your technology in different ways to different subtopics, you're totally welcome to do that. And a small business can, we don't recommend this, but you can submit up to 10 applications for a given solicitation. Now that would be a lot of work. And some people have done that, but we do allow up to 10 applications. They cannot be identical.
Got it, thank you. So then there's also a question about the other category for when there's a release for each topic. So this person is asking, in addition to the specific subtopic, says the department invites grant applications in other areas that fall within the scope of the topic description above. Are related ideas to that topic sorry, I'm reading this wrong. It might not fit perfectly into the subtopic. Would those still be considered or seriously considered if they're going into the other category? So I think it's somewhat related, but it might fall into something.
So the other category really should, if you look, if you look at the topic, there's the topic paragraph, and then there's the subtopics. And the other really needs to be a fit with the paragraph at the top, the topic. If that makes sense. Other has to be a fit with the topic. The subtopics have to be a good fit with the subtopic and the topic, if that makes sense. But you can reach out to the topic managers and say, ask questions about, does this topic include blah, 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 whatever it is that you're thinking of doing. And the one thing I want to mention about the program managers is that they are very busy. SBIR is a small part of their job scope. And while we're very responsive, because our whole thing is SBIR, STTR, most of the program managers are responsive. There are some, unfortunately, that are less responsive, and some of them might take a little while to get back to you. So please submit your questions early so that, again, give them some time to get back to you. And most of them will get back to you, and many of them will engage in a good discussion with you. I just wanted to let you know that sometimes there could be an issue with responsiveness, but we still encourage you to try and reach out to them.
Great, thank you. So then there's a question for the STTR requirement of having to work with an organization like a national lab. So is it possible to work with more than one national lab for the STTR?
Yeah, okay, so that's a good question. And the answer is yes, because you can have multiple subcontractors. And I don't see any reason why that would be a problem. But I'm going to ask you to send me an email. I'm going to put my email. I'm not a real expert at GoTo, I have to admit. I'm trying to look for the chat here. I'm going to put my email in. Why don't you send me an email and we'll just, I'm going to confirm that. I believe it's fine because you can have multiple subcontractors. So I just don't see the chat here. I have the control panel up. And I don't know if you have my,
yeah.
Oh, there it is. I see it. I see it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so I am sending this to everyone. And here's my email address. Okay. Oh, that was to organizers. I need to send that to everyone.
I think we can do that for you.
Yeah, I don't see where I can send it to the whole group. So. Okay, thank you.
Okay, then someone is asking if there are any sample proposals for DOE that they'd be able to look at.
Unfortunately, the answer to that is no, because we can't share an application with the public. We do have a sample letter of intent. If you go to our Applicant Resources page, then there is a letter of intent. There's letter of intent instructions on our Applicant Resource page, and there is a sample letter of intent. So, you know, possibly in the future, there will be an example proposal. It will be completely a made-up one, but at this point in time, we haven't been able to share anything. We do have budget resources on our website, and like I said, a sample commercialization plan and a sample LOI.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's see if I can capture this one. So basically, I think there's a concern if you are a startup to be able to round out your team, what's needed to be able to be shown there. So he's saying, do we have to have experts within the organization? They're considering partnering with the university and with, they have a relationship with NREL here in Colorado. Let's see. They already won an SBIR phase 1 with USDA, but then they're also looking at phase 1 or for SBIR or STTR with DOE around agrivoltaics and carbon sequestration. I guess, so they're presuming that they could apply it with their partners, but just kind of want to understand how they round out their team that would actually, you know, be able to fill the need for the team to be.
You know, don't put anyone on your team that, you know, maybe someone who's famous, but it's not really going to contribute a lot. When I say round out your team, I don't mean that you have to put, you know, like important people on it, or for lack of a better word, you just need to make sure your team can carry out what's proposed. You know, like if you have to do some, like say some material testing, and you don't have the equipment to do it, make sure that you have, a lab, a research institution, or a test lab that is, has signed on to helping and provides a letter of support in that case. If that makes sense. And I'm putting another email address into the organizer, since that's the only way to see what I can do. We did hire a person who her title is Lab to Market Manager, and she's really just getting started, but her role is to help our applicants and awardees with partnering. So it wouldn't hurt to send her an email if you are thinking, if you do feel like you need some partnering direction, because that is her scope of her position.
Perfect.
I sent that to you, Jamie.
Yeah, great. Okay, let's see. Our project managers' teammates looked at positively for a phase 1 proposal, or does the department prefer technical researchers only for phase 1?
Well, you should have a PI, and that should be for phase 1, and that should be someone who's an expert in their field and is going to be overseeing the direction of the research and development. Because phase 1 is a research, the phase 1 scope is research and development. So there is, the PI should be a technical researcher person, yeah.
Okay.
And there is another, there is like a business entity or PM, project manager, that could be someone else that oversees like the budgeting and that type of thing. So that person will be identified as well on the proposal.
Got it. So this person is asking, what is the definition of a qualified team to carry out research and development?
Same question. I guess I'll just kind of say the same thing I said before, that you come up with what you want to do, how you want to prove this feasibility, and how are you going to get there? What are the steps? What type of material testing do you need to do? What type of computational analysis do you need to do? What type of design work do you need to do? So just to make sure, do you have the software you need, or are you putting it in your budget to purchase it? Do you have the analysts you need? Do you have the testing you need? So really you really look at your work plan. The PI should be an expert in the R&D area, and and you really only need the key personnel as part of the proposal. Just what it takes to get the work done. And that's you as the applicant are the ones who have to figure out what the right, who you need. So.
Sure. Okay, let's see. So I guess there are some concerns about any intellectual property that is developed under an award. So I guess, could you explain a little bit how intellectual property works when it's developed, within the DOE, and if you have to mark certain things on your application, kind of how that might work?
Yeah, proprietary information must be marked on your application. And there are, if you go to the application guide, there are very specific instructions, and there's a sample on how you mark it. And you should not include any proprietary information in your letter of intent and at the very top, the project summary of your proposal, because the project summary is made public if you become an awardee, and the letter of intent just also should not include proprietary information. Now, you own your intellectual property that is developed as part of your SBIR grant for 20 years. The idea of the SBIR program is it's non-dilutive, and nobody is owning your IP, nobody's owning a part of your company. So you own your IP at the end of the project for 20 years.
Great, thank you. Okay, so this person is asking, let's see, would it help to get funding if you have a beta prototype that's not necessarily close to final product, but shows the general function of what the end product should be? Is it necessary to begin with?
So that's a little bit tricky, not knowing all the details of your prototype, but the thing that concerns me is that phase one is not for improving a prototype. If you have a prototype and you haven't really necessarily applied it for this particular area or this particular topic or for solving that particular problem, and you have an idea that it might work for that problem, that's something that would be applicable. But if you're just saying like we're taking this prototype and we're taking it to the next TRL level, that's not necessarily what phase one is supposed to be for. It might not be a good fit for our program. And we don't do, some agencies do direct to phase two, but we don't. So you might want to look around at other agencies to see. You can go to SBIR.gov. They have, they list all of the funding agencies and when they have solicitations, and then they also have links to all the websites of the 11 government agencies. And I mentioned before that NSF is always accepting pitch papers, which you pitch your idea to them, and if they like your idea, they invite you to submit a proposal, and then you go into their applicant pool for review. So there's not any topic specificity with NSF. They fund everything, in theory.
Got it.
And the DoD has energy related topics, and I think a lot of their agencies go direct to phase two. So just, there's other options. And if you're not a good fit with the program, there are a lot of names and emails in the topics document. So find someone who's close to your area, and you could reach out to them and say, this is what I'm working on. Is there any opportunity for funding outside of SBIR because I'm not a good fit right now? Or you can even suggest a topic, and maybe that will come out in a future release. So there's some other ideas.
That's fantastic. So I think you covered this a little bit, but as far as applying to other agencies too, if you were awarded both DOE and NSF, for example. So it sounds like you can't do exactly the same thing, but if it was for a different application or there were slight changes, is that something where you could take multiple awards?
Yeah. And I think the agencies will get together and decide how much money that you are going to get, because if there's some overlap but it's not total overlap, then you know that you're not going to get both awards, maximum awards. You'll get some part of each. So it's a negotiated. I think I showed you there's a negotiation part of the award after you've been awarded, and then you negotiate. So that would be part of that process.
Got it. As far as timing for when you actually get the money, I guess people are always concerned about when they're going to get the money in the bank to be able to, pay the people that they get on their team and things like that. So when they are notified of the award, how long is kind of the process of when they start receiving? And is it in disbursements, or kind of what's the process for receiving funds?
So I did show that timeline, and after you submit your application, typically it's 4.5 months. We are very schedule oriented at the DOE. I think it varies from agency to agency. I think some agencies are not on a firm timeline, but we are. If there's there might be a difficulty in the negotiation process that will take a little bit longer. That happens to some small number of awards, and things drag on a little bit, but typically it's about 4.5 months. Yeah, the vast majority of awards.
Got it. Okay. So it seems like there's still a lot of questions about teams, but I know you covered a lot of that, so we don't necessarily need to dig into that more, but maybe you can just reiterate another time if the PI does have to be PhD or not.
No. I mean, you can have industry experience. No, there's no need for you to be a PhD. You do need to demonstrate expertise in your area.
Got it. So what happens if you don't accomplish your goal with the grant?
That's fine. I mean, this is high risk, as I've mentioned. It's early stage, high risk R&D. As long as you do your feasibility evaluation, I mean, you still have to do the work, and you can show at the end that it's not feasible. And then you're not going to apply for a phase 2. You're going to hopefully your research will go in another direction at that point. But that's fine. I mean, that's the fundamental nature of high risk R&D, is you're finding out if something's feasible or not. So you still have to do the work. You still have to issue a final report, but it's the nature of what we're doing for things to not work out.
Makes sense. All right, so this person is asking a little bit more about the IP protection, and they're wondering if it's advisable to do, trademarking, copywriting, getting patents, things like that. Does that have any basis on the awards or help hinder anything?
So I'm not an expert in intellectual property, so I'm hesitant to answer that question. We do have, what you can do is, again, send an email to SBIR, STTR email address, and we do, you can attend our FOA webinar and ask that question, and you might get a better, you could get a better answer from some of the people in our office about this. Sorry, I've been in my position for about a year now, so I can't always answer every question.
Sure. So this is kind of a topic question, but they're wondering if it's appropriate for the future of work or education technology that would steer students towards STEM and the energy industry.
So we do have, that question is really, I think, asking like, what kind of topics that we would have. And we do have, if you look at our release 2, the one thing I want to tell people is, even though our fiscal year 21 release 2 topics document is closed now, I would go to our funding opportunities page and click on fiscal year 21 and look at the topics document, because you'll get a flavor of what's coming in November. It's not going to be exactly the same. Like, some topics go away, some topics stay exactly the same, others shift. But one of the things you'll see in that is that there's training topics, there's workforce development. I haven't seen anything around students, but there are, because there is now a focus on retraining the energy workforce, I would expect that there will continue to be training topics, and that could be software as well too. There are definitely software training topics. But if you're thinking about students and K through 12, and you might want to look at the Department of Education or something like that. I don't believe that we issue topics along training students. But it never hurts to look at our topics when they come out, right? It's really easy to do a keyword search for your area and zone in pretty quickly on if there is something for you or not.
Perfect, thank you. So I know we're about up on time, but did you want to leave with anything like biggest mistakes you've seen, or things that people should really be thinking about as they're applying?
So big mistakes. I think that coming up with what I've heard from the people in our office that are experts in application is that the work plan is not really well laid out. That's a problem. The technology is not a really good fit. They don't understand, people submit, they don't really necessarily understand what the topic manager is looking for. There are administrative declines. Don't do that. Don't ask for more money than is the maximum amount. Don't ask for you know, what are some of the other reasons for administrative decline? Don't change your subtopic from your LOI to your proposal. Do not change your subtopic. That will cause your proposal to be declined. There are, you know, a number of, I can take another minute or two and give you a few more examples.
Yeah, I would encourage all of you to take advantage of all these resources that the DOE is putting out there. Not all the agencies are quite as resource heavy. So I guess that would be a big takeaway for this too. They seem very accessible. So do reach out for all these resources.
So here it is. I actually have a list here. Not clearly addressing the application. We'll end with this. Not clearly addressing the application areas listed in the subtopic description. Not being responsive. The proposal does not contain enough experimental details. Proposing something that's not, you know, that's currently in use, so that it's not necessarily going to be something new. So anyway, there's a couple from the application people.
Great, thank you. I know people need to watch out for the potential mistakes, so it's always helpful to know how they can best move forward.
Great questions, though. Thank you for being engaged, and you all asked some really good questions. So I'm wishing everybody luck in moving forward with their application.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Eileen. We will follow up afterwards with the resources we talked about today. But yeah, thanks so much. And we'll send out these things. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Jamie, for hosting, and to Colorado and Wyoming too, right?
Yes. Have a good day.